to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So now that we're having some of these chilly fall days, I thought I am going to make one of my tried and true recipes. If you've been a long time subscriber, you might know this recipe. However, you might have forgotten about it. And it's just such an inexpensive, great dish to have on hand to warm your bones on those cold days. Now, in case y'all notice that I've got like a goose egg on my forehead with a little bit of a bruise, yes I do. I took a tumble and y'all, I fall down a lot. I don't know, I'm old, right? But I do want to tell you the funny, I wear an Apple Watch, and when I fell, my watch was like, looks like you've had a hard fall. Do you need an ambulance? And I'm like, do all these devices know everything about us? But you could just push, no, I'm okay, or yes, I need an ambulance. I pushed, no, I'm okay. And then it came back and said, but did you fall? I'm like, you are so nosy. But I'm fine, y'all. I got a little cut on my hand, some bumps and bruises, but I'm totally fine. All right, guys, and I didn't need an ambulance. So let me tip you down just a touch here. And I have my cast iron, enamel coated cast iron stock pot, my large stock pot. I put a couple circles of olive oil in there, and I'm going to start with, it says 1 small onion. Okay, I might have like a average onion in here, but I like onion. So one nice thing about this recipe is, you know what, y'all, I just realized my dishwasher's running. And the long guys just showed up. One of the nice things about this recipe, other than the liquids, which we'll talk about in just a moment, you can really spice this any way you like it. So if you like super spicy, this is actually called one pot spaghetti. It's something my mother made every time the weather turned cold every year. So it's something I remember fondly. My sister's also a really good hand to make it. She wrote the recipe out for me because that's one I didn't have. Some people will call this a goulash, but it is really good. It does make a lot, but you can do it fairly economically. So if you grow onions, use your garden onions. I didn't think about that. I have my freeze-dried ones right here. But I also had an onion that needed to be used, so there you go. And I'm using Vidalia, but you could use any type of onion that you and your family prefer. Now, let me turn this light on. Maybe. Okay. The next ingredient that it traditionally called for was a pound of ground beef. Now, have y'all priced ground beef? Holy moly macaroni. And I know it depends on the area, but my area, sometimes I can find it for $5 at Aldi for the organic. Oftentimes they don't have it. Walmart is almost $7 for the same product. So my preference is Jimmy Dean's extra hot and spicy sausage. But you could use regular breakfast sausage. You don't have to use the Jimmy Dean or this hot and spicy. The reason I prefer to do that is it gives a lot of flavor. This is a fairly bland dish, so if you like bland, just use regular sausage. The reason I chose sausage over hamburger was Walmart just had a special on Jimmy Dean sausage for $3.28 a pound. And I don't know anywhere in my area you can buy ground beef for that. I also think it's much tastier, but again, that could just be my preference. So did I stock up? You bet. It was a limit of 4. I bought 4. All right, guys, I'm gonna let this ground beef, you wanna go ahead and brown it well. I'm gonna let it cook for a while. I hope you can hear me over the, turn this down a little bit, over the lawn mowing. This may very well be my last mow, guys, but I don't know. Sometimes, you know, it just depends on how much rain and such that we get. We got rain the last 2 days, and it's supposed to be 60 degrees and sunny. Our leaves are just phenomenal, and I did not think we were going to have a pretty fall. But they're late for our area, but they finally came up. So while this is cooking, what other ingredients are you going to need? And y'all, don't hate on me, don't come for me. It takes canned soup. So cream of mushroom soup, a can of tomato soup. Now normally I don't buy the name brand. I buy the off-brand, if you will. What I will say is I prefer it with Campbell's for this particular dish because it adds so much of the flavor. I have also tried adding canned mushrooms. Y'all don't do it. It gives it a very off-putting taste, and I love canned mushrooms. So that would not be my recommendation. If you want to use store brand, or you have a store brand you really like, go for it. What I try to do, because I don't use a ton of canned soups, is I try to wait until they go on sale and then I stock up. And I try to keep chicken, mushroom, and tomato on the shelf for dishes just like this. So you need your soups. You need 6 ounces of spaghetti, uncooked, you know, the dry spaghetti. You need, it says 20 ounces of crushed tomatoes. I just use a quart jar, y'all. And you want to drain the liquid from it because we're going to need 1 3/4 cup liquid. And then whatever else you want to add to it. I like to add some Worcestershire. I like to add hot sauce, but that's me. Definitely if you're doing the ground beef version, I would add the Worcestershire because it really does add a little something something. All right, well, we're coming along, but I'll bring you back shortly. All right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and add some generous glops of Worcestershire. It calls for 2 teaspoons. That's probably more like 2 tablespoons. That little bit is not going to impact, it's not going to make your spaghetti runny. It will truly turn into the goulash, but I thought that might help deglaze the pan a little bit. All right, one thing, shoot, God, turn off the dishwasher again. One thing I didn't mention, if you are using ground beef or a fattier sausage, you are going to want to drain that before you put in the Worcestershire. So if you use that. So I know from experience that Jimmy Dean is extraordinarily lean, or their hot and spicy version is. Like, I don't have anything to drain off at all. So now that we have our ground beef, yeah, our pork taken care of, let's go ahead and start adding all of the liquids. And we are going to bring that up to a boil. So there's our 1 can of cream of tomato, undiluted. Next, we'll add our can of cream of mushroom, undiluted. And I like to give it a good stir before I go ahead and add my tomatoes, just to get it well incorporated. And now we are ready to add, I'm going to crank it up to medium high. We're ready to add our tomatoes and our liquid. So these are my homegrown, home canned tomatoes from this year. I'm going to start with that. And then we need to add our liquid, which, let me just, 1 3/4 cup. And we are just a tad shy. Let me, pardon me guys, let me just, should have had that done. All right, I added just a squirt of water. So add your liquid. You can, I've done this with V8 juice. Oh my word, sorry about that, y'all. I've done it with V8 juice. It's very good that way too. So you will notice I did not add any salt. I didn't add any garlic. You certainly can do that if that is your preference. I figure there is enough salt because I do put salt in my home canned tomatoes, and there's salt in the sausage and salt in the soups. I prefer no salt, but I'm not a heavy salter. So I weighed out here our 6 ounces of, and I use thin spaghetti. I've never made it with anything else. I'm gonna give it a few dashes of hot sauce. You can also put, and my mom always did, the red pepper flakes. This is gochugaru. I don't want this to blow me up. So back it back a little bit. So now you see we have just like a nice creamy, it kind of looks like reconstituted cream of tomato soup to me. So it's not super red, but it's like really watery, and you might be like, how is that going to make spaghetti? Won't that just be a liquid sloppy mess? And the answer to that is no. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'll bring you back, show you how to add the spaghetti, and talk about next steps and how long to cook. All right, y'all, we're at a light boil. So I like to break up my spaghetti. So yeah, just into kind of like bite size. Ugh. Probably would have been easier to do this in two bunches. Especially, oops, fling a little, especially with the sore hand. So as you stir this in, you're going to be like, oh, Kym, I've done something terrible wrong, because that is way too watery. Trust the process. It is not. So you want to put a lid on it. We are going to, I'm sorry, guys, I just realized turn the washer machine back on, the dishwashing machine. I'm going to go ahead and cover it. I'm going to turn the heat down and then set the timer. I'm going to set it for 30 minutes, so 30 to 40 minutes. You know, it just depends on your stove, how hard you cook it at, the way the wind's blowing that day. But until the spaghetti is the consistency you like. Now, this is a very soft spaghetti. It's not going to come out al dente. But this makes a huge pot, and I'm going to figure out for you what the cost of this pot would be and about how many servings. I hope you'll stay tuned. All right, y'all. Our delicious one-pot spaghetti or goulash is finished, and look how nice and thick it is, y'all. Now, I did want to tell you, I stirred it about every 5 to 10 minutes because it does have a tendency to stick, and you don't want big clumps of your noodles stuck together. So that's number 1. Number 2, as promised, y'all, this makes, depending on the side dishes, 6 to 8 servings. But let's go with the lower one. So I went out on Walmart.com and priced things. Right now, the cream of mushroom name brand is on sale for $1. But I figured this entire batch was about $8.26. So depending on how many servings you're looking at, likely under $1.50 per person for a hot and nutritious meal. When you get ready to reheat your leftovers, because you'll probably have leftovers, this thickens up considerably upon standing. It just does. But it's really good reheated, but you may need to add, you know, a teaspoon of water. So let's dish up. I'm starved to death, y'all. So what else is new, right? Okay. Now, you can put cheese in it. We always had it with the El Cheapo Parmesan cheese. Oh gosh, and of course it's a new one. That will add a salt factor, so if you do plan to top it with some Parmesan, you definitely want to be careful if you are salting any of the ingredients. I personally have never. All right, so let me get positioned here. I'm so bad at this, y'all. Okay, let's give a taste test. What do you say? So kind of work in that cheese, twirly up some noodles, and it's quite hot. Yeah, you can see the steam. But it's so good, and it's so good left over. Hot. taste of my childhood, y'all. And I think that's why I enjoy it so much, but truly is good. Now for me, I would spicy it up a little bit more, but I have a guest coming tomorrow, so I didn't want to blow them up in case they don't like super hot stuff. Another thing I wanted to tell you all, and there will be a continuation just a second for you, but it will be done on a different day because I've got other things going today, but I still had to cook. YouTube is making a change as of November 1 to the ads. So normally I have a choice to say, I want skippable ads, I want non-skippable ads, I want them here, here, and here. Not specifically where in your video, it'll say beginning, in, mid-roll. They are taking that option away. So y'all, if my ads change, I want you to know I have no control over it, nor do I have any control over what ad they are playing. It's whichever advertiser feels that their product is relevant to my content, and a lot of times it's not, y'all. All right, well, I'm gonna go enjoy some spaghetti. I will see you in just a moment. We're going to be making some treats, so I have nothing in the freezer ready to go, so I thought, let's make some treats. I have the supplies at hand, but I really just don't have time today, but I'll see you in just a second. Stay tuned. Well, good morning, day 2 of working on this video. So as I shared yesterday or earlier in this video, I actually have my sister coming today. And so that's one of the reasons I made the one pot spaghetti. Even if she doesn't want to eat lunch, I wanted to have a treat, and I can always send some one pot home with her. So I thought I would make some homemade apple crisp. So many times people will ask me, you know, why do you go to the trouble of home canning? Why don't you just buy it in the store? Well, you know, there's something quite satisfying, and I'm looking for something, y'all. Wait for it. Oh my word, Kym. Here we go. Very satisfying about making your own products. Now, okay, here we go. And knowing the contents. So I had made some apple pie filling, and it kind of got shoved to the back of the pantry. You know how that goes. And my pantries, sorry, that's just the oven saying it's ready, are deep. So sometimes I do have a tendency to eat from the front, which is the older things, but when I have 4 kinds of pie filling, the apple might be in the back. So, good seal still. Ooh, that smells so good. So what I'm going to do, I have here a little pie plate, and I have some of my homemade apple pie filling, and I am going to put this in the bottom, and y'all can't see what I'm doing, of a little pie pan. Y'all, let me come around here and just tip you down a little bit. Ugh. I'm too short to reach across the counter. Now, I would like to have a gracious plenty, so I am also going to use my 3/4 pint, and I might use this 1/2 pint. I will, oh, y'all, it smells so good. I will tell you, because I'm always honest, sometimes to a fault. Good seal on that. Smells delish. That this is from 2020. Normally I try to consume everything I home can within a 2-year period. But like I said, this was shoved in the back. I had thought about using it in oatmeal, kind of as a topping, but I thought, you know what, let me just try making an apple crisp. So now we're gonna make, how easy was that, right? You open a jar, you're done. I wanted to make a crisp topping. So, first thing we're gonna need here is a 1/2 cup of flour. And y'all, somebody put a very nasty comment about don't clang my silverware. And I thought to myself, is that all you got out of that video? But I didn't say anything. The second thing I'm going to add is I'm going to use old-fashioned oats, add half a cup as well. You could use quick oats. It just happened to be that I had oatmeal for breakfast this morning, so I thought, why not? Whoops, okay. Oh, the haters are coming for me. Sorry, guys. And I can't control everything I do. I just can't, guys. I try to take constructive criticism constructively and try to make the best possible videos. I'm sorry I clanged. That was totally an accident. Okay, next ingredient, I'm gonna stir it up a little bit, is a half a cup of white sugar. And guys, this is not necessarily low calorie, but it's gonna be eaten in small quantities. Now, somebody might ask, can you use scoop for scoop Splenda or something like that? Honestly, guys, I've never tried it. I can't speak to it, so I would just say try it. And half a cup of brown sugar packed. Might need to soak my brown sugar bears a little bit. Alrighty. And I'm going to give this, go ahead and give this a little mix. My brown sugar isn't really clumpy, which is good. It's just a little harder than it normally is. So I'll soak my little brown sugar bears and put those back in the brown sugar containers. So that looks lush, delish. Y'all, it's really early. It's only like 6:30. All right, next is your cinnamon. Now, I love cinnamon. And so it does not normally call for that much. That was about a teaspoon. And I'm using this Ceylon cinnamon that I purchased from Azure. We're going to put in a dash of salt. And then the odd dry ingredient is about half a teaspoon of baking powder. So you could use self-rising flour and omit the baking powder and salt. I don't have self-rising flour. So let me give all of these a really good mix, and then we're going to do the good part. So what you're going to need is about 5 tablespoons of butter. So that's about 2/3 of a stick of butter, and you want it cold. So what I'm going to do here to make the process a little easier is I'm going to cut up my butter into some cubes so that they're at least smaller pieces to start, but it is nice and cold. So it may take it a minute to incorporate because it's a little chilly in the house this morning. Y'all, I have a goal of November 1st to turn on my heat. So far I've been totally fine. I haven't really even been cold yet. But it's coming. Tonight we're going to have our first hard freeze at 31 degrees. So I'm going to get out in the garden, harvest my sunflower heads because they won't mature. Once they've frozen, they're not going to mature any further. So I will do that. And I'm going to have to make a decision on what I'm going to do with my loofah because I'm really not sure. Well, I'm going to harvest it, of course, but whether I'm going to cover it and try to make it a little bit longer, because then, in typical Ohio fashion, we're going to have a couple days in the 70s a bit later this coming week. All right. So I am just going to use a pastry cutter and kind of chunk up that butter until you have kind of coarse crumbs. Honestly, y'all, I've made this so many times. I just kind of estimate. This was something, when I was a kid, was one of the few things on the lunch tray that I actually enjoyed that our lunch ladies made, was the apple crisp. It was so delicious. I could have cared less about all the other gross things they made. They had 2 dishes that I absolutely hated. One was Johnny Marzetti, which was like wallpaper paste, you know, kind of a goulash, but it was horrible. And the other was something that they called beaver pizza, which was really just a very undercooked English muffin with some sauce and cheese slapped on it. It was terrible. So I was allowed to pack my lunch for those days. All right, guys, the easiest way to do this, my hands are very clean, is just to get in there with your hands and rub those chunks of butter. And that will get it well distributed throughout. You don't want all of your butter on one section of your apple crisp because then the topping will be dry in other areas. So I'm just gonna keep on mixing here. Then we're gonna go into a preheated 375-degree oven. And you know, my oven's fast. I have a convection oven. So it's 35 to 40 minutes. Everything's fully cooked in the pie filling. So I don't have to worry about my apples being too hard. Pardon me, but you do wanna cook that raw flour to a degree that it doesn't taste like raw flour, right? So 35 to 40 minutes is what a typical oven will take. I can let you know what my convection oven takes. I like using the convection oven. I have a split oven, and I really like that because it uses a lot less electricity. And today is a morning that I will open the oven when we're all done and let that heat go out into the house. So we're getting there, guys. Alrighty. And you do want to make sure you get this, you know, pretty even. Oops, butter overboard. And cover all of those apples so everybody gets a bite of the best part, which to me is the crisp. But I do like fruit desserts a whole lot. And I was kind of delighted when I was trying to figure, what am I going to make, you know, for my sister. And I know she likes this. And I'm thinking, apple crisp would be perfect. I have apples. And then I thought, wait, I bet I have apple pie filling. And indeed I did. Okay, guys, show you what. Got kind of a lot of butter right there. You spread out. So this is what we have. Into the oven we go. I'll bring you back when it comes out and we'll do a taste test and I'll tell you what I think. Stay tuned. All right, y'all, our delicious apple crisp is out of the oven. So I cooked it for 23 minutes. Should not have done the extra 3, just saying. So one little bit of it got kind of brown, but we're gonna fix that because we're gonna eat that part so nobody will see it, right? Oh, y'all, this smells so good. It's very good with ice cream, whipped cream, anything like that. It's just plain good. So let me give you a quick taste test. It is pretty hot, but that's when it's good to me. So delicious. Nice tart apples. This was made with Zester apples, Z-E-S-T-A-R. I don't know if it's an Ohio thing or if you can get them everywhere. I buy them from the farmer's market. They're great cooking apple because they cook up kind of like applesauce. Delicious. It doesn't taste burnt at all. The topping is crispy and buttery and sweet. And yeah, this was a winner, guys. And what did it take? Maybe 10 minutes. So that's one of the reasons I like to have shelf-stable food at hand. Does it save me money? I believe it does. There are probably certain things that you could buy on sale less expensive. However, I like to control the ingredients, and also having a soy allergy and a sensitivity to some preservatives, it just makes a safe eating for me. I know anything I put on the shelf, I can eat. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. It was a little bit different. I know I've made the one-pot spaghetti before, but sometimes it's good to pull out those old recipes and, you know, in these times, guys, as you can, put some extra supplies on your shelf. With all of the unrest, I'll say it that way, in the world today, we just don't know what supply chain issues we might have. what conflicts might arise, how the U.S. may or may, if you're in the U.S., may or may not be involved. So it's always good to have a little extra. And if you really didn't need to get a little extra, you can still use it. So you're not wasting anything. It's like insurance, so that your life can continue at a relatively similar circumstance. So I will, pardon me, I will see you all again Saturday. I always have to think about when I'm going to post this video. And by then, we might be doing some loofah. I have a feeling with the frost or with the freeze, I may just have to go ahead and harvest, which means I likely won't get any seeds that are mature enough to grow next year, so I will have to repurchase. I was hoping to have enough I could share as well. All right, guys, if you'd do me a big favor, go ahead and smash that like button. Drop me a comment below. Would you consider one pot spaghetti or an easy apple crisp? I'd love to hear. All right, until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and take care.